I don't know if you've ever experienced this. You have an interview for a job that you really want. You spend hours upon hours preparing for it, only to have your mind to completely blank when it matters the most. Well, I have a story for you. After being laid off recently, I've been applying to countless jobs, and after many rejections, I finally received my first positive response. I was thrilled, but that excitement also came with a bit of anxiety, because not only it had been 5 years since I've done my last interview, back when I was in university, but this was also the first time that I would have an interview that wasn't in my first language. So I over-prepared for my first interview. I had a script ready and memorized about all of my background. Tell me about yourself. What's the greatest challenge you faced in your career? You name it. I was more than ready. And it paid. On the day of the actual interview, I was surprised by how not so bad my English sound and how well the conversation flowed.
Yeah, going good, and you? Well, I've been working in tech for almost 5 years
And
now.
the more the interview was going, the more confident I grew.
Firm where I've worked with many clients in the span of 2 years.
Then the interviewer switched the conversation to a little coding exercise. The problem was simple. You receive an array of date range and you check if they overlap. But for some reason, at that moment, my brain just shut down. And not even for how to resolve the logic, my brain just did not remember how to write code anymore. I had spent so much time preparing to present myself in English in the past few days that I hadn't took the time to practice coding. I thought that because I've been coding almost every day for the past 5 years, I should be fine, but in that moment, it felt like I had forgotten how to write code entirely. I really struggled to get started. I tried declaring a function, but even that I did not remember how to do it. I somehow vaguely remembered how to write an arrow function, so I went with that, and I ended up giving it the worst possible name.
Is that a good name?
No, totally not. Then I struggled to come up with something better, and I finally settled on check overlapping. I tried to work through the logic, but inside my head it was like the worst possible brain fog. I then forced something out, but the interviewer didn't seem convinced.
Okay, do you really need to look at the start date and the end date of every date?
He was right, and just as I was trying to write the for loop he just explained, Git Copilot decided to write it for me. I froze and I just stared at what it had written.
Yeah, this is it.
How great was this? I didn't even wrote the code.
Okay, well, let's test it.
And again, I froze. How the f*** are you supposed to run a plain JavaScript file? I asked him, and he just went,
Well, figure out.
I thought for a good 5 seconds until I finally had the idea of just Google something like GS Runner. We ran the code, and guess what? The code that Copilot wrote for me actually worked. At that point, I could just feel the interviewer losing interest. He asked me if I had any more questions and just sped through the last few minutes of the interview. And just like that, it was over. Man, the moment I closed the meeting, I cringed so hard I could feel it in my soul. It's like I've been coding for almost 10 years now. I know how to write code. And yet what I've showed is someone who struggled to even write a function properly. I felt so bad that I actually messaged ChatGPT for moral support after that. But after a while I calmed down and I remind myself that, okay, that could have been a great job opportunity, but honestly, I was just rusty and I need to get back into the groove of interviews. There will be other chances in the future, So I turned my frustration into action and I started applying everywhere to be sure to have a second chance. And this time you can be sure that I will practice my JavaScript before. And then something funny happened. The next morning, I woke up, I opened my phone, I checked my inbox, and there it was. a message from the company. I was ready for the worst, another one of those. Unfortunately, we've decided not to move forward, but it was something else. I made it. I f***ing made it. I guess it just goes to show that sometimes in life, things seem worse than they really are. We convince ourselves that we've messed up, that we've completely blown our chances, but in reality, things aren't always as bad as we think. What really saved me in that interview wasn't perfect code. It was the fact that even though I struggled, I kept talking, I kept explaining the logic I would use, because at the end of the day, code is just a tool. What really matters is understanding the problem and being able to work through it. That's what people are looking for. Anyway, I have like 3 more interviews lined up for that job, so I don't have a job yet, but I'll keep you posted about future updates. Alright guys, that's all I have for today, so I'll see you soon.